How to attract media coverage. Watch this video to learn how to convince the media to report on the cool things your organization is doing. Whether it is a new product you are releasing, a fundraiser or a special event you're holding, or a piece of important news affecting your company. Learn how to reach out to and cultivate relationships with reporters so you can always feed them impeccable content. If you're able to forge excellent relationships with reporters, they can, in turn, help you increase the public's knowledge of who you are and what you do. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous, if you were to ask me. If you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee or tea or vodka and let's roll. Today, I want to talk to you about how to attract media coverage to your organization, whether it is a for-profit business or a non-profit. Number one, you need to know how to write a media release. What is a media release? What is a press release? A press release is, in short, a little document that you send out to reporters primarily, whereby you notify them of the great things you're doing. Whether it is you're launching a new product, you're holding an event, you are doing something great for the community. A press release will have that info. A press release also has an important section, which is the press contact. In other words, somebody with a phone with a name and a phone number and an email in some cases, who can be contacted by reporters, journalists who need more info. Learning how to create a media release can help you a lot. If you don't have the expertise in-house, it's always better to outsource the task. There are a lot of freelancers out there. There are some of whom are affordable. Online, you can hire to draft an impeccable and excellent media release for you. Once you learn how to write a media release, you need to find the human interest element. If you want to attract media coverage, you need to find the human interest element. What is that? If you're selling a product, if you're selling a service, if you're writing about a community event, you need to ask yourself, how does this particular activity, this particular event affect people, folks? People. I don't care if you're selling a financial product, you're selling something as sophisticated and hypothetical, if you will, as a derivative. All right. This is complicated. This is not, people cannot see it. It's not tangible, but there is a human element behind it. So if you're able to connect your message to the human element behind it, you will attract journalists' interest, which in turn will increase media coverage. Producing timely and relevant case studies that relate to your story is a great way to get your story covered. So the general rule is that the media is more likely to cover a story if a human interest element is involved. You have to start thinking as a journalist. So let me give you an example. I think I gave the example before about let's say a bank, a financial institution has set up a new product, a financial derivative. Now, this might be a little sophisticated and complex for the general public, but if the bank is able to mold the message, to ship the message, to have a human element, a human interest element, for instance, people will be able to mitigate risk related to retirement, for instance, by purchasing these financial derivatives or other products. I don't want to linger on financial derivatives, but the point I'm trying to make here is that whatever product or service you are releasing, you need to link it to the human elements behind it. One thing you have to understand is that if you produce, for example, a case study and you tell journalists about who will benefit from the products or service, from the work that you're doing, what are the stakeholders? How is it affecting the community? How is it affecting the city? How is it affecting the country? What are the authorities' opinion on your product or service? The more you're able to lay out a case, to present a case to the media, the more incentive the media will have to cover your story. And this also gives the media a great photo opportunity. Think about it, because many newspapers tend to give the front page to the story with the best pictures, and you want to use this to your advantage. the next thing I want to talk about is that the news desk won't do. If you want to attract media coverage, don't talk to the news desk. You want to aim for a specific journalist. You want to aim for specific editors. If you send your media releases straight through to the general news desk, it will stop there, because you're actually competing with a lot of other newsworthy items. You are running the risk of having your story overlooked, because the news desk is the busiest desk at a newspaper's organization. So you don't want that. So you want to target specific reporters to increase the chances of having your story covered, especially if the story covers something social or community affairs. You want to reach out to those particular reporters, so social and community affairs reporters. And that's if you are reaching out to bigger news outlets. Reporter details can generally be found on an outlet's website or through a quick phone call to the outlet. Number 4, you want to ban one specific phrase from your vocabulary: no comment. No comment is really bad for your media strategies if you're trying to attract media coverage. You might be thinking, saying no comment to a journalist is great. It might be great if you're a politician dealing with temporary issues, but if you are in business or you are a nonprofit and you want to woo the journalist to your organization, you don't want to say no comment. Because when no comment is offered to journalists, the story will still go ahead, just without your side of it. Because a lot of people think that if you say no comment to a journalist, they will be saved from answering any hard questions and might force them to drop the story. But journalists and editors have different incentives. Sometimes what's good for you, what's bad for your organization, might be actually good for them in terms of audience metrics. So you want to always do yourself a favor, and if there is some kind of a detrimental story being prepared around your company, you want to be given the opportunity to defend yourself against any accusation, any statement, right? And another thing with no comment is that you're able, if you always comment. In other words, if you ban the phrase no comment from your vocabulary, you're able to give the reporter an opportunity to ask other questions, ancillary questions. They might ask, for example, do you agree with this? No, I don't agree with this. And then you have an opportunity yourself to shape the conversation, because reporters are humans too, so they will respond to what you're telling them. And the last thing you want is to have decline to comment, quote unquote, decline to comment in the story, because readers will automatically think that you have something to hide if you decline to comment. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Q. We are still having a conversation today around how to attract media coverage. And the next tip I want to give you is you want to be buddy-buddy with journalists. Always be available. You want to make it very easy for a journalist to contact you to follow up on a story, right? You can provide a mobile number. You can provide an email. Being available can be especially useful if a reporter is trying to contact you outside of your office hours, but just before their deadline, because maybe they have a last thing to check with you. They want to get your opinion about a story. That really is, and journalists love that. They will commend you for it, and they will be buddy with you. If you're not the spokesperson of an organization, make sure the person who is will be ready to comment on the issue that the journalist is covering. The idea here is availability. I'm not saying that your organization should have people stand by 24/7. That's not the goal. The goal here is to project an impression of being available. Of course, no journalist will contact you at 2 a.m. unless the story is very key. But if a journalist contacts you at 2 a.m., that means your organization is big enough, or the issue is important enough, and in that case, you want to pick up the call. The next thing you want to do if you want to attract media coverage is you want to find the local audience. You want to find the local audience. Whether you're working for a nonprofit or a for-profit business, you want to make sure that you're localizing. You are having a bespoke message for the local audience. So journalists who are working at local outlets are also worthy of consideration or worthy of trust. You don't have to always contact media outlets in the big metropolitan areas. No, you can actually reach out to your local reporter and explain the situation to him or her, or tell him or her what you're working on in terms of events, in terms of products or services, whatever you want to let the whole world know. You can contact also your local reporters. Be sure though to take the time to contact a local editor, and you want to rework your message so that it is more relevant to the local audience. It's not the same thing, right? You want to have a message that can be heard, can resonate with the locals. And this is something you can do very easily if you are familiar with the newspapers in your area. You know what kind of stories resonate with them. You know what kind of the more prominent news outlets at the local level. And if you don't, you can still even do a quick Google search, and that will give you a lot of info about the local newspapers out there. Let's talk now about building relationships. If you want to draw positive media coverage, you want to build relationships, because journalists are humans and they play favorites. They do. If they know you and know that you return their calls, you provide good quotes, and you know your stuff, they might choose your story over another, and they will even contact you for more comment more often. So make sure you're able to take the time to meet a journalist. You want to forge a relationship with that person. You want to look him or her in the eyes and tell him or her stuff. So just ditch the telephone here and email whenever possible, and meet the journalist face to face. Because the bottom line here is, if you want to have a stronger relationship between your group, between your organization, between your company and the media in the long run, you want to be able to have that face to face. And by having that, you're able to get more stories from your side. You can get more airtime, more print space in the future. You also want to grab their attention. Journalists are very busy people. They are surrounded, they are bombarded by a lot of stories. People are pitching stuff to them constantly. But if you want them to cover your story, and that you believe your story is worth covering, you got to grab their attention. Now, how do you do that? You want to stay away from a boring media release. You want to stay away from a boring email. This will never make it to the news, because if it's boring the journalist already, chances are he or she is now going to write about it, which means the editor won't see it and will never be covered. So you want to catch their attention in the subject line and first sentence, so that your story has a chance of being published. Make sure your subject line and first sentence are intriguing, captivating, compelling, engaging, exciting, if you want the media to take notice. Now, as a rule of thumb, if it will not be of interest to the media outlet's audience, that story will never be published. As simple as that. It will never be published. So don't even bother. So the work has to be done from the get-go. The work of attracting a journalist to publish your story or to work on your story has to start from the get-go. That's where you have to put all your efforts. I'll be right back, y'all. After this, don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I hope you are still there having a conversation. We're having a conversation here around how to attract media coverage. And if you love the content's clarity and quality so far, please consider subscribing to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you are informed in real time whenever we drop a new show. I want to talk to you now about doing your homework. So when it comes to drawing media coverage, you want to do your homework. You want to know the media outlet you are contacting. You want to know their procedures. You want to know their rules. You want to know their vision, what kind of political or social construct they're in. Are they liberal? Are they conservative? Are they Democrats? Are they Republicans? Whatever it is, you need to know the editorial line of the newspaper or the media outlets you are contacting. You want to do that research before calling or sending through a media release. That way you are increasing your chances. You will know right away what news, if you do the proper research, you will know what news the media outlet covers, which geographic areas it covers, and what their target audience is. So you're able to, by having that intel, you're able to know beforehand what will work and what will not. And if you're able to fit all of these factors with your story, you'll have a greater chance of success. Number 10, you want to get the inside word. To attract media coverage, you want to understand what's really going on behind the scenes at the news outlet itself. So media training doesn't have to be formal or expensive. This can be as easy as an approach to a journalist for advice on how your group can become better at attracting coverage. If you have the budget, I would say invite a journalist to come and give a presentation. Maybe you can pay him or her $100 for 1 hour, so he or she can tell you a little bit about what's really happening behind the scenes. And you don't even have to hire a journalist. You can even hire a communications expert, someone who knows about the subtleties and the intricacies of news media coverage. You can, if you have a small budget or no budget at all, you can even reach out to a local journalist. And this could start as formally or informally as a request for a drink and a chat about attracting coverage, right? So when you do that, be sure to mention what kind of organizations you have. Whether you're a for-profit business or a non-profit, you need to mention that. And while they're there, if you're lucky enough to have a journalist accept your invitation, please respect their time. Be respectful with their time. Understand that they are very busy people, and try to be there early, and don't keep dragging the conversations over and over and over. All right. This is basically what I wanted to cover with you today. Okay, let's wrap up today's conversation. Today, I was talking to you about how to attract media coverage to your organization, whether it is a for-profit business or a non-profit. 10 tips. Know how to write a press release. Find the human interest element. Aim for specific journalists. The news desk will not do. Bend the phrase no comment. Be available. Find the local audience. Build relationships. Grab the journalist's attention. Do your homework and get the inside word. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.